Good. Hello, and welcome to Making Sense of It. This is our gift to you from the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory. And we have been, Sue Tomaszewski and Sharon Carter-Jackson and I have been looking at the 10 axioms of choice theory for the past 4 or 5 weeks. And today we are looking at axiom number 9 and 10. And what we do is I will read all of the 10 axioms, and then Sue will give us additional quotes from Dr. Glasser as to kind of what was behind the thought of that particular axiom. And then she will also be sharing some quality school criteria and how it is used. And then Sharon will join in and help us to see some behavioral strategies as well as some institutional strategies. And it's very, well, it's complicated, but it's simple, and it really helps you make sense of the axiom itself and how it can be used in every mode of life. So thanks everyone for being here. And Wendell every once in a while gives us a little chat in there to make a comment. So we will go ahead and get started. And Sue, are you ready to share the screen?
I am. Just about. There we go.
Okay, so we're going to be looking at, just to refresh your mind, axioms 1 through 8, and then we'll look 9 and 10 that we're going to be delving into depth with today. So, axiom 1, the only person whose behavior we can control is our own. And believe me, that is enough responsibility right there. So, axiom number 2, all we can give or get from others is information. And how we deal with that information is our choice and or their choice, because we cannot make anyone do anything. It's really up to them. And it's also up to us. So, axiom number 3, all long-lasting psychological problems are relationship problems. And it's how that, the difficulties that we have with others has to do with how we are unable to effectively relate with them or they with us. Number 4, the problem relationship is always a part of our present life, meaning that even though the person may be deceased, may be living on the other side of the world, may be living next door, the thing of it is as long as they're in our head and we're carrying them around in our thoughts, they're still a part of our present life. Axiom 5, what happened in the past that was painful has a great deal to do with where we are today, that revisiting this painful past can contribute little or nothing to what we need to do today. And what we need to do today is have a current, present, important relationship. Number 6, we are driven by 5 genetic needs. And they're not just wants, they're absolute needs. And that is the need to survive, to keep on breathing. We have the need to love and to be loved, to love and to belong, to have power, to accomplish, to have freedom, and then also to have a lot of fun. We have a need to have fun, to enjoy. Number 7, we can satisfy these genetic needs and all the little flowers that hang along with it. We can satisfy these needs only by satisfying the picture that we have in our head of our quality world. And that quality world is from the day we are born, we are looking around and we have begin to be selective. Ooh, I like that, but I don't like that too much. And those quality worlds are those things that we look around and we determine at an early age, hey, this is what I want from life. And we continue to add those quality things to our life as we live each day. Axiom number 8, all we can do from birth to death is behave, and we're always behaving. And all of our behavior is total, meaning that it has 4 components. And that is acting, thinking, feeling, and the physiology. The 3 are I mean, just really easy to understand the acting, thinking, and the feelings. But the physiology is the internal stuff within us that keeps our heart beating, that keeps us breathing, that keeps the blood pressure level, or not being level. Anyway, all we can do, and that every action, every thought, everything includes those four components. And so today we are looking at 9 and 10. And axiom number 9 is all total behavior is designated by verbs, meaning that you add an ing to it and it brings it into the noun, as in thinking, angering, fussing, procrastinating. And these are infinitives and gerunds, and they name the component that is the most recognizable. As we can begin to look into ourselves if we're upset, and instead of saying, you made me mad, we would say, oh, I'm angering at this, and put it where well, for the locus of control is. And then axiom number 10, all total behavior is chosen, but we have direct control over the actions we take and the thoughts we think. And and we are choosing, and then that can be, that's why we named this segment making sense of it, because sometimes we don't want to, well, that doesn't make any sense. My behavior is not always chosen. It just, this happens and this has to happen. Well, not necessarily so. Anyway, so thank you. So, Sue, we'll turn it over to you for you to give us the sayings of Dr. Glasser behind those axioms and some other things that from your wisdom.
Okay. Well, axiom number 9. So all total behavior is designated by verbs, usually those infinitives and gerunds, and named by the component that is most recognizable. So in Dr. Glasser's Choice Theory, New Psychology of Personal Freedom, he told us, accepting this axiom is uncomfortable for external control believers, but failing to understand it takes away a lot of freedom. To choose to stop depressing is a wonderful freedom that external control people will never have. He also told us these people think that the miserable feeling is happening to them or it's caused by what someone else does. As soon as we say, I'm choosing to depress or I am depressing, we are immediately aware it is a choice and we have gained personal freedom. So now Sharon and I work with the Glasser Quality School Committee for Gift US, and we see links between this axiom and our criteria 1. So criteria 1 for Glasser Quality Schools and Gift is a Glasser Quality School is a joyful place where a positive, supportive, trusting learning and working environment is created and maintained. And we see that this criteria emphasizes the use of the helping and connecting and caring habits and the questioning process for handling discipline incidents. We encourage the use of designating verbs within these strategies, i.e., when you picture yourself as accepting instead of criticizing, what might you say? And then we also see a link with it in criteria 3, which is all students do competent work as well as some quality work each year. And this criteria has a focus on valuing creativity and critical thinking, as well as choosing behaviors to encourage, support, and challenge each other. Framing these behaviors in total behavior terms and verb forms may prove very helpful, i.e., quote, please describe your feelings when you choose to anger and think critically as you create other ways to choose to feel. When you were accepting what you were thinking and feeling, how might you be acting? What's happening when you're with your body? And because we are from Gift US, we know that the axioms also are part of what WGI, the international organization, states, and they have some differences in this one. WGI International is stating axiom 8. So we're going back as all total behavior is chosen, but we only have direct control over the acting and the thinking components. We can only control our feeling and physiology indirectly through how we choose to act and think. So now we're we're putting it together and saying, it appears that WJ International has switched the order and how they've combined the concepts within the axioms of 7, 8, 9, and 10. We're using it the way Gift US has stated it. So just so you're aware of that. All right, so axiom number 9, behavioral and instructional strategies.
Okay, so we're going to begin to look at these. We'll start with the behavioral strategies. Okay, the first one that we're talking about is problem solving in class meetings as students describe their total behavior. So we have taught our students the basic needs, those 5 needs, and we've taught them how to use the car, the total behavior of the acting and thinking on the front wheels, and the feeling and physiology or body talk, if we're talking about young children, on the back wheels. And those back wheels always tell us how we feel, and we take it to the front wheels then, and this is where the choice comes in that we've been talking about. We can choose then how we're going to behave. And problem solving is taking this information, having a concern within the class meets together, and they talk about the ways that they're using this information with their total behavior to see where the problem lies and how they might change some actions, perhaps some thinking, to make the problem livable within their class situation. And this, of course, could go to any type of work situation, whether it be office, doctor, nurse, hospital, volunteer group, family group. This also applies across the board. Okay. Using the questioning process, framing the doing, present behavior, and planning components with total behavior and verbs. The questioning process is what we use within the classroom, and we're talking, and we may be talking to ourselves as well as to our students or a coworker. In work, you might be talking to yourself or others within your groups. So the questioning problem starts with, what do you want? Now, what do you really want? Okay, so really think about it. Just don't give a flip answer, because it may be a little more than that. And one of whatever you're wanting will be to meet one of those 5 needs, and it will be happening today. Okay, and then once you figure out what you want, what have you been doing? Is it working? Well, not like I would want it to be working. Okay, so we move to the E, the evaluating, also from the what doing and how it's working. And then finally we come to the P, the planning session. What are we going to do? What difference in behaviors could we have? Well, how could we do that? And instead of staying with, I feel depressed, or I feel someone is putting me down, I feel put down, we change it to, I am thinking I am going to solve this problem. I'm in this mode. I'm going to deal with where I'm at in my total behavior by looking at those issues. Okay. Clarifying the class, your job, my job chart using total behavior and verbs. And we've talked about this before, that, it's quite helpful no matter what your group, whether it's family, work, and or school, and that could be classroom or staff relationships. What is my job? I can state, this is what I will be doing. This is what I do. And students will define what their jobs are. We can put this on a chart if we want. And again, we're using that total behavior of staying on the acting and thinking wheels on the front to pull those behaviors and the physiology forward to where we can work with them. And the verbiage, of course, is we're going to keep it as, I am choosing to be happy. I'm happy. I don't think I've ever said that. but that's what we would be doing. I am not choosing depressing. I'm going to change my thinking, so it is going to be happy thoughts for the day. And just as a side, I was in a little shop the other day, and the little plaque said, happiness begins in your heart. I had to buy it. It was only $5. But I think that is so awesome with choice theory, because we take that information we have from that back wheel of my feeling wheel, my sad, mad, glad wheel, and then I can choose whether I'm going to let it pull me down with depressing or withdrawing or angering, whatever I might be doing, to choosing to plan things that would meet that need and help me find joy in life.
So Sharon,
Yes.
Sharon, are you honestly telling us that we can change our emotions by changing our thoughts?
I am. Now, the key word, I did not say it was easy. Right.
Ah,
Sometimes you have to really, really work at that. If you've been a very sad situation and you've been depressing and you've been withdrawing all of those things that you might do in a uncomfortable situation or a situation that's not in your quality world, and you think, all right, you wake up one day, kind of almost literally wake up and say, this is not my life that I want. I'm going to start choosing, or I will choose the verb or the gerund, and I will start doing this. I'm going to find some happy thoughts. I'm going to watch a comedy. I'm going to do different things. I'm going to talk to my friend that always helps me uplift my spirits. So it can happen. It may have to be done daily. I mean, if there's feelings and thoughts that you really don't like that situation where you're at, it takes some time. It doesn't mean you won't ever get back there again. But once you do, hey, I know what I need to do. I don't want to stay here. I can choose other things.
okay, thanks.
Well, it seems interesting also, Sharon, right? It's like, here's what I'm going to choose to think instead, which then also would be, here's what I choose to do.
Yes, exactly.
So I know I'm happier when I get up and do something, as opposed to when I just kind of hang out and just sit and sulk. So what are the things that I can do that helps me to feel better,
Right.
in a sense? So that may help.
Yes,
But
and in those actions, as Sue was saying, you do change your feelings, and that physiology will change because it's something you enjoy. And you may find love, belonging, you may find some recognition, you may find some fun, whatever, some freedom. And just as we were saying earlier, as soon as you make that switch to knowing that I can change my thinking, I can change my doing, all at once you have immense freedom. Because then you can choose and then become free to do your life as you want it to. So I think that's really, we sometimes miss that and don't emphasize that, but it does give us immense freedom once we can get to that point. I work at it. Okay, let's look at what we do in the classrooms for instructional strategies using this axiom. Okay. In the classroom, we're always looking to find what things are similar and how things are maybe different. And this is how we can look at those acting and thinking or doing things that we're talking about. How are they the same? How are they different? And which parts of each do we want to bring forward and continue to use? Reinforcing effort and providing recognition. Okay, once I make that flip, that change to thinking that, oh, I can be happier, I can do this and that, that reinforces my effort because I'm getting the payback that my feelings are changing and my feelings are pleasant now rather than being uncomfortable. So someone else may give the recognition on the outside, but I'm definitely getting some reinforcement from the inside of me too, which is the most powerful, I think, because it all starts with me. I can only have control of my own behavior. And I think enough said on that then.
And as we talked about last time, that when we talk about reinforcing, it sounds very external, but it's really paying attention to a student or anyone's effort, because that's what they really have control over.
Right. You've really been working hard at this. Thank you. And selecting objective and providing feedback. So objective, how can we be that? How can we be non-committal? That's not the word. Not to enforce our priorities on somebody or something. And again, we go back to that effort that we were talking about just a minute ago. If we're being objective, we're looking at the person and asking, well, look at the effort that you put forth. How long did you work at this? How did you find this information out? So we're looking at the effort the person is making and how that is helping them. And in essence, they are providing their own feedback where they recognize and acknowledge their effort. And then we can help them understand that of saying, yes, I agree with you on that. And then you might go into some of that questioning process. If you want, you're saying you want to change this, you want to improve, then we go through those questions, what we might do to help improve a project or an activity.
And
can I throw in a
interesting.
little
I'm
thought?
sorry. Go ahead.
Is that many times whenever someone is so adamant about it can't happen, but what I like to say is as nonchalant as possible is, well, think about it. I mean, maybe so, maybe no.
Right.
And you know so that it is immovable. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's a little more elasticity there than we're willing to look at right now. But it's just kind of leaving that so that they organically can begin to say, well, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me that maybe, just maybe, there's something.
And again, you recognize their own control there because you can't tell them, no matter how much you tell them, they have to make the decision that maybe it is.
Exactly.
Or maybe it's not.
Exactly.
You're giving them that opportunity to look at it both ways. Awesome. Sue, did you have something?
Yeah, I did. And Sharon, you put a different spin on the selecting objective. So you were talking about objectivity, which was really interesting. For this particular instructional strategy, that is built into it, but the selecting objective, what Dr. Marzano was referring to here is we're selecting the objective in terms of what's our goal? Where are we going? What's the actual learning that a student would be getting? So the selecting objective, which if you're selecting objectivity as well, may also help that. So it's the focus on learning, and then we're providing the feedback to a student, which will enable even more self-evaluation. So it's not judgment, it's feedback in terms of the effort that the student had put in.
Definitely. Right. And of course, all of these skills transfer to the work situation. Your language would be different. It would be termed within whatever your profession is or the location where you're working. So
it would be speaking to the coworker.
Yes.
Right.
It might be.
Right. Well, what's also really interesting is that in identifying similarities and differences, we think it's easier to teach to show the similarities between things. It's actually more difficult. It's actually much easier to point out the differences. They're more obvious, and the similarities actually make it more difficult to learn something. Then it's like this is more similar than it is different, makes it difficult to create the specifics between things.
Right. Just how do they differ because they're so similar?
Just it's an interesting piece.
Yes, it
So,
is.
you ready for Axiom 10?
I think we are.
Okie, here we go. Axiom 10, the all total behavior is chosen, but we only have direct control over the acting and thinking components. We can, however, control our feelings and physiology indirectly through how we choose to act and think. So Dr. Glasser told us in his Choice Theory and New Psychology of Personal Freedom book, understanding that we cannot directly control our feelings and our physiology, only our actions and thoughts free us to avoid what we cannot control. It's not easy to change our actions and thoughts, but it is all we can do. If we succeed in coming up with more satisfying actions and thoughts, we gain a great deal of personal freedom in the process. And as being part of the Glasser Quality School Committee for Gift US, we see links between this particular axiom and our criteria too, which is total learning competency is expected of all students, and students are instructionally supported until competency is achieved. And we see this criteria is focused on feedback and opportunities for students to relearn, to enrich and improve, can lean into students learning how to control their negativity towards improving their work, helping them to be alert of their self-talk and actions as they strive for further quality. We also see a connection with criteria number 5, that students, as well as educators, do well on measurements of learning and school performance. Highlighting the use of total behavior as a means for students to plan for progress by knowing their areas of strength and improvement, while also preparing for required assessments and tests, will help them emphasize their own control. As opposed to kids looking and saying, well, this stupid test, I'm not in control of this at all. And just again, the differences in axioms from other sources. WGI International states that axiom 10 as all total behavior is chosen, but we only have direct control over the acting and thinking components. We can only control our feelings and physiology indirectly through how we choose to act and think. So WGI International has chosen slightly different verbiage, which changes the emphasis of this axiom to some degree. Gift US is maintaining for axiom 10 that is mostly consistent with Dr. Glass's original statement, but it ends the axiom prior to the information about the indirect control of our feelings and physiology. So just an interesting piece for that. Okie doke.
Yes.
And then on to behavioral instructional strategies.
Okay.
Okay, Sharon?
There it came. I was waiting for it to show on the screen.
Oh,
The
sorry.
questioning process when on present behavior, the doing and planning segments. Again, we have taught this to our students. They recognize it. They can speak this as they learn it, especially the older they get. But it's amazing how very young children can understand this and put it to play. So the questioning process, as I was saying, we are looking at what we want, or what you want if you're the one with it, dealing with your issue, what we want and what we're doing. We stay in the present, as we've been talking about. We may look at when did you solve a problem like this, to find a hidden strength from the past, but the present concern is always a behavior today. And so we're looking at that present behavior and what we're doing as we're working to solve the concern or issue. And then what are we planning? And the plan should be something that is totally in control of the planner. It's not that the plan would never be an acceptable plan if it depended on, if you are lecturing tomorrow on this, then I can have that report due tomorrow because I'll have the information. No, you need to work at what is you doing without someone else. Or plan might be, I will listen to your lecture tomorrow, then I will do it. But you don't state the plan as dependent on someone else doing something. So that's very critical with us to realize that we are in total control over behavior, not someone else. It's accepting that. So again, using that questioning process with yourself, with others, whether it's in schools or work or family. Okay. We've talked about this before, and it's because it's such a successful strategy that journaling, and when students journal daily, it helps them to recognize what their individual power is and their control and choices that they have. Because once they go back and read these, maybe from a week before or even 2 days before, it puts them in their words, and then they can step back and think, was I staying in the present? Was I staying on my thinking wheel? Am I acting well? And gaining that power that I can make with my plan that I'm doing. And that gives me control and choices then that I can make.
Call me back around 12:15, that'd be good.
Can you motivate? Okay, yeah, there we go. Right. Okay, another strategy is refining the class constitution, the classroom rules or procedures, emphasizing total behavior components. So we've talked about classrooms in particular having agreed upon a form of behavior. Sometimes this is called a classroom constitution. or it could be a list of procedures that we agree to operate on within this particular classroom. These could be defined in a work situation where you have standards, possibly you might call them, of operation within that. And it also applies to families, because families do make contracts and agreements sometimes. But the critical thing is at the end, we always emphasize our acting and thinking on those front two wheels of the total behavior. We know that the back two will follow as we change in our thinking and our acting. Okay, here were our instructional strategies. Okay. Instructional strategies that would be involved in the classroom would be questions, asking for information, asking what was being done, asking for how it was be done, asking with whom they were working, any type of question except why. We never ask them why, because why always brings it, well, I wouldn't have pushed him if he hadn't pushed me back. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about you chose to push when you were wanting your friend to play with you. We're not talking about him pushing you first. You push back. So we stay in the present, and it doesn't mean we won't be working with the other student also, because there's a concern there if that student should be pushing. But we're doing those questions. We're staying in the present. We're looking for cues that in the learning, in the instruction, that we might use with that thinking and that acting. Advanced organizers are a way of putting our learning objectives and our information in ways that we can manage them and refer back to them without having to recreate a lot of information. And cooperative learning. These are the small groups that we use frequently in classrooms, and I see them just as advisable within the work situation. People are chosen to work within a group of people to solve an objective. Each person is still responsible within that group for doing their part of the work, but sometimes I have a skill, Sue has a skill, somebody else has a skill, and we put them together and we can create something much bigger than any one of us could have created, or we can help each other learn a concept that we might have had more difficulty learning if we had been on our own. It's a process of developing social skills, of course, because you're in a group situation and you're working through those to achieve the learning.
Okay, that's it.
I think it is.
Okay, very good. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate that very much. It was, and we'll go ahead and close out this particular segment. The Axioms 1 through 10 are on the Glacier website, that you can go there and look under Making Sense of It and go back and read those. Then also, I just need you to know that anytime, once a month, I get a little indication from YouTube that shows how many people and how many minutes they've been online and so forth. And there have been a lot of people that have been looking at these. So thank you for the efforts that you have put in. It is continuing on. So
Wonderful.
we'll go ahead. Yes. So go ahead and stop the recording for now, and we'll chat live for those of you that are here. So many blessings.